Hi you guys, my name is Guru Shakia and I'm out here on a beautiful Sunday in Florida. It's not really sunny today. I'm just sitting on a tree out here in nature. But I wanted to touch on a topic discussing my STD story. Now, I've been procrastinating on this video all day. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. But I'm trying to be vulnerable, and this is part of hashtag I'm Not Ashamed movement that I discovered by Layla Martin. And I actually looked this up, and a lot of girls were expressing their stories openly on YouTube, which surprised me, as many as I found, because I feel like this is something that we are taught to be ashamed of. But again, just like abortion and a lot of things relating to this matter is very, very common. We are just taught to sweep it under the rug, and no one is to ever discuss what happens in our lives. But this is very damaging as women, or just as human beings in general, to not discuss what is really happening. It's like we're putting ourselves in denial and so forth. But yeah, I'm just going to talk about my story, discuss it, what went down, what happened in this time period of my life. Of course, it is nothing that I am happy about, but I'm choosing to no longer be ashamed of it. This is the form of setting myself free. So in doing that, I'm going to be vulnerable with you guys today. My STD story. So first of all, when I was younger, I was very dumb and stupid and reckless. First of all, that's just a disclaimer, and like a lot of us are. Not that that's any excuse, but I was very dumb, naive, and whatever. I don't know what I was looking for as far as love when I was younger. I was just being reckless. And in my younger stage, I guess I can start with when, first of all, my family never really touched upon the topic of sex. The only time I remember my parents trying to tell me about sex is when I was younger. They tried to give me a book about it, but I kind of freaked out and I was like, no, I'm not ready yet. But otherwise than that, it was nothing that was really talked about. Everyone acted like it didn't exist, or it was shamed upon or frowned upon. And I didn't really have any like sex education classes like that. I don't recall ever going to any classes like that. Until like very late in high school, which by that time I feel like it was like too late. I had to learn about sex basically by diving headfirst into it, and being naive. I learned it from the men that I dated, basically. And my first relationship was when I was like 17, and basically I ended up having sex with this guy because he said he loved me, and that's when the condoms would start being used and everything like that. And even at that point, it didn't really occur to me that I guess I was so trusting of that person, so I was just like, it's whatever, he loves me, we love each other, so I'm gonna just trust that he's being honest to me, that he doesn't have sex with other women raw without a condom, and that I'm just gonna trust it. He's more experienced than me. He uses good judgment, he gets tested and things like that, which that was very naive of me to think that way. Even then, when I was younger, at that point, I didn't get tested for a while, but oh, keep in mind, these are related to STDs that were curable, such as gonorrhea and chlamydia, which are very common, which a lot of teenagers, a lot of people in general get, but they don't admit it or whatever. I was lucky enough to not have caught in this phase of my life something that I couldn't bounce back from. But during this stage, I didn't get tested or whatever. We broke up in a devastating way, and I kind of went on a spree of being very promiscuous, which, again, that happens. But as a woman, you don't want to tell people these things. But I went on a spree of that, trying to find love through sex, being very addicted to sex. And again, not really being educated with sex, so I'm sitting here learning and just doing what guys tell me to do. being very frivolous, like with my health. I didn't really, I was going a lot based upon my friends too that I had at the time, which were, I guess people can call it hoes or thoughts or whatever, but, which that's a whole nother topic, which I like, of degrading women. But at the time, who I was surrounded by was not the greatest examples of how to learn about sex, or, as good examples. But geez, I'm trying to just get it all out. It's so hard. Okay. But in this process, I remember, okay, I went through this whole phase or whatever. And then I remember, I guess one of my friends, she slept with one of the people that I slept with, one of my lovers, whatever. She called me one day, was like, well, I think you should get tested too, you never know, and all these things. And I was like, at that point, I kind of like broke down, and I was like, I'm not a fucking idiot, all of us were just being so free with it, and being not as responsible using condoms and protection and shit like that. And, at that time, I was like, look, okay, maybe I should get tested. I should face the reality of what can happen with being too careless in this situation, because everything is cause and effect. So when I got tested, I did end up having chlamydia and gonorrhea. And I remember crying to my mom, telling her, like, look, I have something or whatever. And my mom isn't a very caring person. The first thing she was like, oh, you couldn't be that dumb or whatever. But mind you, no one talks about it openly in my house. And when we did, it was something to be shamed upon and things of that nature. I felt like I had to sneak sex and shit like that. And I felt like my parents didn't make it a comfortable thing to talk about in our house, because I felt like if I went through them to do anything with sex, I feel like they would have scowled at me, basically. And I feel like that's part of the problem too in our society. But when I told her, I was crying, I was like, oh, I got this or whatever. But then I went and got taken care of. And little did I know, it was a lot to do with a lot of issues I had. Because when I was younger, I used to get migraines all the time, side pains and all these things. And I didn't understand why. But it was because I was procrastinating on getting tested a lot of the times. And I knew I was being careless. But I still didn't want to, admit, maybe I should go get tested and shit like that. Because who wants to know that? Like, and a lot of people, they do want to be ignorant and be like, well, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. But that is very stupid. But when that happened and I cured it or whatever, since then, you better believe that every time I had sex, I got tested. And even in that period, because I was still pretty promiscuous, because I still had like mishaps where I wasn't very, point on about making the guy wear the condom. And it wasn't until my ex that I broke up with him, I got an abortion and everything, got tested again after that, and I went celibate for a couple years, like two years. And now that I'm trying to be open and dating again after self-discovery and all these things and growing, I don't play that shit now. Now it's like condom every time, being very, very serious about protecting myself, basically, if I am to engage in sexual intercourse. I feel like guys are lucky if I didn't just basically go make us take a test, right there together. But the least you can do is wear a condom every time if you're going to engage in sex with people, because you just never know. Even if you use a condom, still get tested. That's the smart thing to do. But yeah, that's the only thing I could say about that experience that I learned, is that you can't be reckless with your health, because it is very important, and just something that you can use for that moment. You're trying to get pleasure so quick that you just want to forget using the condom, when that's very important. So something that I learned from that is to use it every time. I mean, even if you're on birth control and shit like that, I would still use it. And even if you're using it, I would still get tested. just to be safe, because you just never know. Your health is very important, and when you're young or dumb in general, these are things that you just don't think about. So yeah, I used to feel very ashamed, and other women, just like slut shaming and everything, people make you feel ashamed for these things. But now I am grown and more mature, and I am expressing myself and what I go through and what I went through. But now I am lucky to say that I am STD free. And again, and not everybody got out like I did. Like, that was by the grace of God, I feel like. Not to be funny, but as much as reckless as I was being, because I didn't know myself, I didn't know what I wanted, who I was, and I was just going with the fucking flow of shit, and not being just, it was just crazy. Like, I didn't realize how blessed I am to have another shot at life, to, make better choices, make better decisions. So yeah, that is my story, you guys. And this is not something to be ashamed about, because it is common. It's not saying that it's right because it's common. It's common. We are human beings. We fuck up. We make mistakes. This shit exists. Like, STDs aren't any kind of myth or no shit. So I don't know why people act like it's this thing we can't discuss. It is in a reality for a lot of people. And we should be mature enough to discuss it, especially with our loved ones. No one should ever make you feel bad, even if you have the worst, like HIV or AIDS. Like, no one should make you feel bad about having these things, because it is part of our experience as human beings. It came with the fucking, came with life and what in the physical realm that we're in. But yeah, that's my thoughts and viewpoint of it, you guys. And share your story, set yourself free. Like, just because you're a woman and you had STD doesn't mean shit. Even if you're a guy and you had it, doesn't mean shit. We all learn and grow from these experiences. And your past doesn't make you who you are either. Just because you fucked up one time or multiple times in your past, does not mean that is ultimately who you are. I am not the same person who was promiscuous, doing however the fuck I wanted to do at any given moment. I am totally different from that person now, because I learned and grew from that experience. I understand, and that is all we're here to do, is to learn and grow from experiences that we are in, and to expand as human beings. I grew so much since then. It was no way that I'll make the same mistakes as then, and just be compassionate with yourself. Even if you're still making mistakes now, it's not too late to change. You have to understand that and give yourself a chance, lighten up on yourself, and understand that you're still worthy of love. Because for a long time, because these instances were happening to me, I was thinking, well, who would ever love me now? I made all these decisions, being reckless. Who would ever love me now? Kept repeating. And that's bullshit. Because if a real man comes along, he's gonna wife your ass up real quick. And if men aren't wifing you up real quick or treating you bad, that's just not the one for you. There's plenty of fish in the sea. There's men put to test us, men and women put to test us, vice versa. And you have to understand that, when your one comes along, you'll know, because they'll take the opportunity to not let you get away, basically. And you are more than worthy. Don't let this define who you are. You're beautiful. You're worthy of love. Someone will love you. Someone does fancy you right now. Even after sharing your story, if you think people won't like you afterwards, fuck that. Like, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter won't mind. So yeah, be dope, be you unapologetically. Yeah. Peace.